Hello everyone, welcome to this video of the Roland Cloud how-to series. Today, 808. Yep, the TR-808 software version. Now the TR-808 is super important in the history of music. We all know the name, we all know the sound. Well, some people don't know the name, but they know the sound because it's part of the industry and it's part of so many songs that we know the sound of a TR-808. But most people know the sound of a sampled 808. Now, a sample is fixed in value. It's a recording of a fixed state of a synthesizer, in this case of the TR-808 drum machine. But the TR-808, the original one, would react differently depending on how you programmed it, how it was played. It would not always react the same way because of that. So if you want to play the TR-808 sound and feeling, then a sample won't do the job. And getting your hand on a real original TR-808 is going to be hard because, I mean, they're old and there's few in-betweens and they cost a lot and they're vintage basically. So the next best thing to having the real thing is having the best emulation of the real thing, which is the plug-in version of the Roland TR-808. And it's available in the Roland Cloud. So this is a plugin we'll talk about today. We'll go deep diving in it. And it will react the way the TR-808 original would react because it's using ACB technology, Roland Advanced Circuit Behavior technology. So every circuit of the device has been meticulously recreated and simulated so it will react like the original TR-808. And then better. Because it's a plugin now, there's some limits that do not exist anymore, and there's ways of working with it that are better than the original. You have, for example, a better and easier way to enter your patterns and manage your patterns. You can even save the drum kits, which was not possible in the original one. So a lot of new advanced little things that makes it better. Let's actually dive in together. You'll see how and why people love the TR-808. Let's go. I'm using Zenbeats. So I'm going to open the song. I'm going to select a template, and the template is going to be TR-808. So it's the new template of Zenbeats on your Mac or PC. So I just go with the plugin and double click on it. I have it full screen, basically. I've got my... Remember that if it's too small or too big, you can always go into Option and select the percentage here and have it smaller if you wish. Okay, so you can always change the zoom. First part, let's talk about sound editing. You have this window here where you have the level, the tone or the tuning, the decay, the snappy, the switch between the congas or the tom. Basically, you have access to all the original sounds, the bass drum, the snare drum, the low toms, mid tom, high toms, rim shot, and clap. Remember that you cannot have them at the same time. You have either the maracas or the hand clap, the clavs or the rim shot. You know, you click and you switch. So you only have one of the two available at the same time, which is fine. And you got the cowbell, you got the cymbal, open hi-hat and close hi-hat. Now these are basically volumes, a little bit of control like decay and toning. There's also, click on panel, you've got pan. So this is interesting when you start wondering to mix and position, like you could easily put your tom in a stereo field going from left to right, or same thing with the hi-hats. You could put your hi-hats on one side and your cymbal on the other, or even some people put an open hi-hat on one side and a closed hi-hat on the other one. It doesn't make any sense acoustically speaking because the hi-hat is one device, open and closed, but electronically speaking, do whatever you want. That's, you know, go ahead, have fun. What I want to show you here is actually the gain, which is interesting. If I press play now, we have this little beat running. I'm going to bring the volume up a little bit here. Okay, so we have the drum beat playing here. Just the A, just listen to A. If I bring the gain, I start to saturate the output of the kick itself. So that's the maximum. Now if I go back to the first window and I put maximum decay and even tone it down, and I can tune it down. just I want to have, I like to have the little, has more aggressive, more presence in the bass. Then I feel that the snare is too low, so I can actually have a little bit snappier, noisier snare. But then I would like to have my hi-hat louder. That would be just level. The accent. Now if I find that too loud, I can actually bring that down. So that's really a quick way to create more or change the sound just by the distortion. You know, if you add just gain, pretty cool. Now let's go into editing. If you click on edit here, you're gonna get that little window here of editing all your different parts. One thing interesting, you have here the selection section, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. These are the 8 different patterns you can select just by clicking on them, and you see they're changing here, or by actually pressing Shift while you click on them. You're just adding to them the list, and you don't have to do all of them. You can say, well, I'm going to go F and then H when you press, or I'm going to get rid of C. So I'm going to play A, B, D, F, and H. See? Now B, jump to D, jump to F, then jump to H, go back to A. So that's interesting. It's which one you're going to play in this order. Now, if you click on edit, well, when edit is activated, you see the little window here. But then the question is, what do you see musically wise, editing wise? What's in that window here? Right now, we're at current. Current basically means the one that is playing right now. But if I say, well, let's say I want to work on A and Shift, I'm going to press B. I'm playing with A and B, but I want to edit A. So I'm going to click on edit variations, select. I'm editing A right now. I see A and B, they're playing, but I'm editing A. So if I want to say I want to change the close hi-hat and have close hi-hat everywhere. Now we hear it. And I do. So you see, I changed the drum of A while B was playing, and I only saw A. If I click on current now, it will switch between A and B. Go back to A and B. So you've got these two playing. Just a different way of managing this. Okay, let's stop that for now. So in editing mode, let's say we keep B. B is a good one. So we see B, we hear B. If you don't want to do this, I'll go current, and I'm staying on just B right now. I'm good. And what's interesting here is you have the scale. You can change so the speed itself. So the timing of each of the steps. You can really create other grooves with that. Let's go back to the original one we had, which is basically a 4/4 beat. So stop that. So what we can do here, we can actually go in and can solo and mute. So if you want to solo something, you're editing, I don't know, hi-hat, you go solo, you just hear that, which is fine. You unsolo it, then you hear your stuff. You mute it, you hear everything else. So just a quick way to edit your stuff. You have shuffle. When you add shuffle here, it's going to affect everybody here. But if, well, let's say, well, I don't want to affect the kick, and I don't want to affect the snare. I just want the shuffle to be on the hi-hat. So you see visually, they don't go the same speed. Some of them slow down here. There's the shuffle mode. Go back to Let's now look into the different ways to enter other type of notes. If you look at the hi-hat here, you have, it's going to go solo on the hi-hat. You've got normal note, you've got these darker notes. These are weak notes. Weak notes, you press weak and you type them in. They're the same sound but lower in volume, basically. It's like a lower velocity. Let's say I'm going to take all of this. If I click here, I'm going to have just loud notes. If I play now, start. Okay. Now if I play weak, I'm going to say weak notes. So on this one, this, this. So these are hi-hat notes, but lower in velocities. Now you have flam and substeps. Substeps, you actually have 3 types of substeps, and when you click on one, you're in that mode, and then you say, I'm going to take this one here. You hear the frr. Put it here. Then I'm going to try another substep type 2. It's going to be a little bit faster. And I'm going to try substep type 3. So you see the colors are different, and they equal 3 different types of substeps. Now let's say we do snare now. I'm going to add the snare also. Okay, you get a weak note here. What I'll do with the snare is I'm going to play with the flam. I'm going to say flam on this one. You see? You hear the flam? So you have a double hit. If I go closer to 1, the double hits are closer. If I go to 5, you hear them separately. Okay? If I go closer to 9, now this is different, because if I say I want to put 3 here, here, and here, they're at 3, all of them. If I switch to 9, they're all at 9. So it changes depending on the one you select here. It's not the same way as the substep, whereas the substep, every time you enter it, it's a different color, whereas the type for the flam, it's for all the notes with the flam, they have that same type. Okay? What else? You have the last step. Last step is interesting because you can have these, all of these can have different ending points. You could say my kick, my snare, my hi-hat. They have different points, and if you get rid of this, now you're completely redoing the sequence. And you see in dark the section that is not playing. So this one, the last step is this here. This one, the last step is here. This one goes to the end. Again, if you want to change that, you go, well, I'm going to change my kick to here. You can really create these polyrhythmics rhythms that are really interesting. Let's say you like that drum kit, you can go copy. And what you're going to copy here is the pattern. Say you go to Tum and you say, well, paste. I'm going to paste that here. Then if you press here, just to listen to this one. So the same rhythm we have for the kick, now we have it for the Tum. Now if you want to have control over the separate sounds on separate channels or separate tracks to be able to put reverb, compression, distortion, whatever it is that you like to have. Maybe you want to have some reverb on the snare and some delay on the hi-hat and some compression on the kick, for example. Well, you can have separate tracks, multiple outputs. Depending on the DAW itself, you might have to select when you first load the TR-808 to say it's going to be a stereo version or the multiple out. When you put it in Zenbeats, there's only one load you put in. And then when you go into the window here called Option, you go Sub Output, and then you can select which one you want to take out. By clicking bass, snare, let's say, rim shot, end clap, closed, and open hi-hat, these will be separate tracks outside of the stereo output of the TR-808. And to see these separate tracks, you need to go into, you click on the track itself, you click on the little arrow so you see the mixer window, click on the MIDI window, and in the MIDI somewhere you've got subtracks. You add subtracks, and you say how many subtracks. In this case, I'm going to say, well, I don't know, 8 of them. Okay. Now I have, if I press play, you have one on this track here, one of this track here. Mixer window. Put this in solo. So if I want to take this one, so that's the kick drum. If I add, I'm going to use Zenbeats compressor. I'm going to pick drum 2. I'm going to take the snare. I'm going to say, well, this one, I'm going to put it in. Again, I'm going to select the Zenbeat reverb. Yeah. Well, that's too much. I'm going to bring that in the middle. I think the room's going to be good. That's a clap here. What I'll do with the clap, I'm going to send it to, I don't know, let's try a delay here. There you go. To use the multi-outputs in Logic Pro, we need to do this. We have our track here. We're going to go into the eye for inspector. I'm going to select the TR-808 and the audio unit instruments. And there's something new now. You've got stereo or multi-output. Mine is in French because I'm French Canadian. Multi-sortie. So click on this one, you get multi-outputs. And then you have your normal drum kit here. If you play it, you have everything. If you go into option, you select sub output, and then you click on bass drum, snare, and clap, whatever you want. So these now are sent to the multi-output. Still, we hear them, which is kind of odd because you go, well, it's not in the output. Well, that's it. The way it's already prepared for you is great. I'm going to press on the mixer here, or you press X for the mixer. There's a little plus sign here just beside the track, at the bottom of the track. You press plus, and then what you have, you can plus again, and you can say, you see this one is TR-8, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. If I press plus again, I have, I can click and say which one I want to use. 17. So now if I press solo on this one, I just have the hi-hat. Press solo on this one, just have the snare. Solo on just the kick. So they're part of the same instrument. If you look at the top here, there's only one track. but there's separate outputs. You can actually now compress, EQ, automate these tracks separately. That's it. If you want to use the multi-output of a plugin in Ableton Live, you have to do this. First of all, of course, you need to take the plugin you want, the TR-808, take it and drop it on a MIDI track. Now we have it. It works like it should be. I go in Option, I go Sub Output, and I assign kick, snare, and hi-hat, for example. Perfect. I close this. Now we don't hear the kick, snare, and hi-hat because they're not part of the stereo output anymore. And I'm going to create new tracks, but audio tracks. And the audio tracks, instead of selecting the external input for the audio from, I'm going to select TR-808 in the audio from. So it's coming from TR-808, but by default it's the post mixer. So what's the output of this is sent to the other one, which is not what I want. So I'm going to click the post mixer and select the output 3 and 4. And then to hear it, I'm going to monitor the input. Now I have it. Same thing here. I'm going to go here, TR-808, and then I'm going to select 5 and 6, which is put monitor on. I've got the snare, and same logic here, TR-808, and 17, 18, monitor in. I've got my hi-hat, close eye. That's it. One thing that is important is the rhythm we hear is actually playing inside the TR-808 plugin. It's not in the sequence itself. Then there's like two ways to play the TR-808 plugin. Either you play it live, I mean you can send notes to it and then you actually can play it yourself on another device, send it to it. You can actually play the sequencer from a keyboard. There's keys. If you want to know about this and you forget about it, click on Help. Help will show you this little PDF, really efficient. If you want to play the different sounds, this part is really useful. If you play the note 35, 36 on your keyboard, you will play the bass drum. These are all the notes you will play by playing them on the keys. But what I like the most is this section here, the start and stop. So 32 and 33 are triggering the sequencer of the plugin itself, and 24 to 31 are actually selecting the patterns A to pattern H. So using your keyboard, you could actually trigger in real time, switching between patterns of your 8 patterns of your drum machine, like you would play a real beatbox. So that's one way to play it live in real time and switch between things. And you can actually play on top with the other sounds. So you can add fills and right from the keyboard. If you want to integrate it into your song and just, I would say, more in a studio environment, then the drag and drop of the sequence might be more interesting. You can drag and drop patterns as audio files, or you can drag and drop patterns as MIDI. So you can create your own performance, or if you want to transfer it to your computer, to your DAW, but you have to verify that drag and drop patterns as MIDI. And then when you click B, I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to click my B pattern and drop it here. And then you've got the pattern playing. Then you don't want this to play. So you actually have the performance triggering in real time the sounds of the TR-808. And if you double click, you can now go in and edit your performance, like all the tools that you have in your DAW. You can even copy the performance somewhere else and then use it. So now it's part of the sequence. And if you don't want this to trigger every time, you go into Lock Position to DAW. So now it's not starting. You don't have double play. Okay? You can even use the audio instead. You're going to select Option, drag and drop pattern as audio, and I need an audio track. I'm going to take B and drop it on audio track here. So now this one, if I double click on it, I've got nothing. Because everything I have is sent to the sub out. And it's going to take the stereo out. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to get rid of the sub out, because everything that is in a sub out will not go out the stereo out. And then now if I take B and I drop it here, I have sound. The first one was basically stereo without the sound, because all the sound I set it to sub outs, so it wouldn't work. And the B, if I double click it, I've got the whole. So it depends on how you work. If you work with patterns, MIDI files, or if you work with audio information, the two are possible with this. So even if you don't use it in real time in your song, you can use it to create the patterns, all everything you like, and then put it in the DAW, and then the rest of it will be in the DAW environment. Or you forget about all this and use it in real time live using the MIDI notes to trigger start, stop, the pattern you want, and you can play on top of it. Really powerful. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments or questions, put them below. See you soon.